My final point for discussion, and I realize I'm going a little longer than usual today. Didn't mean to, it just happened. Final point for discussion is really the tradition of the patriarchal promise as a whole, and really the patriarchal narratives as a whole. Right? Over and over again, God says, I am giving this land to you and to your offspring. Right? And only in that one spot in Genesis 15 is there a hint that this doesn't mean I'm giving it to them right now. The patriarchs spend their time moving around the land of Canaan. They build altars and they make treaties and they purchase burial plots. But if they're just going to leave again in a few generations, what's the point? None of this stuff's ever going to come back in the story. When Israel comes back from Egypt, right, back to this land that they had settled in 400 years earlier, they have to conquer it by force. Right? These claims they made in Genesis, these treaties, these altars, totally irrelevant. Even the burial site where all of the patriarchs are buried, totally irrelevant, never comes back again. Right? So what we're seeing here is an origin story, right? An answer to the question, why do we live here in Canaan? And the answer that the patriarchal narratives are giving us is because God gave this land to our ancestors. Right? The Exodus story is like a different origin story. Why are we here? Because God brought us here from Egypt and we conquered this place. The Pentateuchal narrative as a whole comes in like these two major blocks, Genesis and the rest, that actually don't fit very well together. Right, when you think of it as a story, right? We have a whole story arc in Genesis that then just like disappears. What we have here is an attempt to create a continuous narrative out of two origin stories. It's the Pentateuch is like a nationalized origin myth, one that's created to construct a community that maybe wasn't sort of existing previously. And ancient Israel, despite the biblical narrative, was actually quite a very diverse society. And its origins lie in two distinct groups, neither one of which probably was particularly uniform. One group was native Canaanites. I don't know how good this map is going to be, but native Canaanites. This is a map of Israel, and what you're seeing there, the black circles are Iron Age settlements. That is a sort of 12th to 10th century settlements. So you can see where they all are, right? They're all along that ridge of the mountains there in the highlands, right? So those settlements were settlements created by native Canaanites who moved up into those hills from the big cities that are down on the coast, right? You can see on this map even how the coastal plain is nice and flat and it's very fertile, right? That's where like, Tel Aviv is today. It's very fertile land. And then, you get up into the hills. That's where Israel started, up in those hill countries. And that's why it's because Israel came in part from the coastal Canaanite cities that the Bible goes to such lengths to dissociate Israel from Canaan, right? Over and over again, we're not them, we're not them. They have terrible practices. We're anything but Canaanite, right? But Israelite culture is basically continuous with Canaanite culture, from its rituals and cultic practices to its pottery, right? They're all the same peoples. So that's one group. Another group that made up ancient Israel was outsiders who joined up with these small communities in the highlands. Some of those people may have been from Egypt, but probably they came from all over, right? People who just looking for a new place, disaffected or outcasts or travelers. These diverse peoples with their diverse origins intermarried and started to create a culture and an identity. And as they did so, they also created a single story. Right? And so for some of them, it was, yeah, God promised this land to our ancestors. That's why we're here. And some of them are like, we came in from outside here. That's how we ended up here. And now their national story is God promised this land to our ancestors, and also somehow we came in from outside.